Off the line, a full throttle stab in sport mode sees the car jump out of the gate with torsos shoved into seatbacks from the first few inches of movement. This is the electrified G80 from Genesis. My name's Justin Pritchard. We've got lots to cover in this video, so let's get started. After a 1,300-kilometer road test with plenty of time on the open highways connecting central Ontario to areas further north, I would tell you that the Genesis Electrified G80 is one of the smoothest driving luxury sedans I've ever visited. Even if drivers may need a little seat time to get in sync with the rhythm of its main controls before seeing its very best work. More on that in a bit. My tester was the 2023 Genesis Electrified G80, a recently updated version of the brand's mid-range sedan, and a model that's now available with both gasoline and electric propulsion options. Most electric vehicles, or EVs, are dedicated platforms with no gas engine option. This is the opposite. With the latest G80, shoppers can specify either gasoline or electric power plants in the same luxury sedan. The G80 model range is priced from the mid-60s with a 300-horsepower turbocharged 2.5-liter four-cylinder and all-wheel drive. Higher-end models from the low 70s run a 3.5-liter twin-turbo V6, good for 375 horsepower. The electrified G80 boots the gas tank, engine, and exhaust system, instead employing an all-electric setup with dual motors for 365 horsepower and all-wheel drive. That's backed by 516 pounds of instant-on electric torque. Drivers choosing the electric option can expect hair-trigger throttle response that combustion-powered versions just can't match. In perfect conditions, expect about 450 kilometers of driving on a full charge. On my watch during a midsummer heat wave with heavy use of the air conditioner, I saw about 430 kilometers to a full charge. In the dead of a northern Ontario winter, I'd be expecting about 340 kilometers per charge on the coldest days with the heat blasting. Remember, the average Canadian drives less than 50 kilometers per day, and most EV owners recharge exclusively at home in their garages or driveways. There's no need to stop and charge on anything but the longest trips you'll make, and a fast charger can add 100 kilometers of range during the average washroom and coffee break, or fully recharge a near-empty battery while shopping or eating with your family. It's a good thing that the electrified G80 charges fast, since it's a hard car to put away. First, the cost per kilometer of driving an EV like this one is a fraction of its gas-powered counterpart, despite being more responsive, eager, and smooth. Even the most lead-footed drivers could leave this car in its neck-straining sport mode all day long, enjoying torrential torque output out of every traffic light, and after a few days, refill its empty battery with a few bucks worth of off-peak hydro instead of $100 or more worth of gasoline. Drivers with a lighter boot will love the smooth and silent glide up to speed, which supports the unique driving character that's richly dialed into this machine. The highway cruising experience is exceptionally good. The electrified G80 feels very dense, heavy, and secure on its feet. Steering is heavy and precise, which makes it easy for the driver to stay glued to their line with minimized workload or need to readjust. There's little meaningful feel or feedback from the steering, which will leave some enthusiast drivers wishing for a stronger connection with their machine. Though it doesn't beg for fast cornering, the electrified G80 has a way of handling highway on-ramps with the charming feel of a big sticky sedan and gobs of silent torque in reserve for slingshot corner exits. The ride itself is beautiful, quiet, muted, and relaxed. The adaptive suspension can read the road, react to it in real time, and even uses a camera to pre-scan for incoming potholes, adjusting the suspension before an impact to help further smooth out the ride. At low speeds, the G80's weight seems no match for its electric power. Off the line, a full throttle stab in sport mode sees the car jump out of the gate with torsos shoved into seatbacks from the first few inches of movement. Passing and merging require virtually no second guessing thanks to pleasing punch and right-now throttle response. That response does trail off somewhat at higher velocities, meaning the G80 feels a lot snappier at lower speeds. On smooth highways, it's like floating along quietly in a torque-rich hover vault. On rougher in-town roads and secondary highways common in my northern Ontario locale, potholes, failed pavement repairs, and cracks can often send ride comfort tumbling and cabin noise levels upwards. In the electrified G80, there was another pleasant surprise. Even the roughest roads that I regularly test luxury sedans on failed to coax out much of an increase to harshness or feedback. The adaptive shocks keep body motions nicely in check, meaning driver and occupants get a more consistently comfortable ride even as road surface conditions degrade. Even on my worst-case scenario ride comfort testing surface, basically a busted-up stretch of Sudbury back road, The electrified G80 performed even better than some of the best luxury SUVs I've recently tested here when it comes to comfort and noise levels on board. So put this machine on your list if a top-notch luxury car ride across a wide range of conditions is a priority for you. But here's where we need to talk a little about the electrified G80's rhythm. First, the throttle in an EV may feel fairly different than what you're used to in a gas-fired luxury sedan. Ditto the brakes. Specifically, you might find both to be hard to work with consistent smoothness without a little practice. This is normal, and your right foot will quickly self-adjust to its new throttle and brake pedal. Still, during sportier driving, I found rapid transitions from throttle to brakes and back to be a little dramatic. First, because the suspension is soft, even in its sportiest setting, and second, because it can be difficult to engage the brakes and throttle smoothly when switching rapidly from one to the next. The result is some lurching and excessive body movements, which you'll also experience when engaging and disengaging the cruise control. This is all short-term stuff that fades into memory once you've got the cruise controls and pedal feel down to memory. Before long, you'll dial in the correct amount of regenerative braking force from the steering wheel mounted paddles, and find the drive mode that best suits your style. But we still have what we would call paddle shifters elsewhere. Left and right, you can see there's a little battery icon there. Corresponds to that gauge down here in the lower right-hand side. So what you're going to notice is when I click on the left paddle here, we'll see that meter come up. There's 1 click, 2 clicks, 3 clicks, and the 4th click gives us iPedal, which we just saw light up right there. In the lowest setting here, which we would engage by clicking the right paddle, we have basically no regenerative braking. That means that this car is just going to coast the way that you would expect from a regular automatic transmission. From there, we can add a little more regenerative braking. 1 click, that means we'll slow down a little bit more than a conventional transmission. 1 more click here. About halfway up the dial in terms of regenerative braking, that's more aggressive. 3rd click, meter goes up higher still, that's some more aggressive regenerative braking. And again, that 4th click, we have iPedal mode, which is an aggressive regenerative braking that will actually pull the car down to a stop and hold it there, helping you to recharge that battery there as much as possible just by slowing the car down using more of the regenerative braking. And on your test drive, that is one of the important features to make sure that you try, because one of those 4 levels will be the one that you prefer, so make sure you try them all. In the meantime, your right foot will learn how to work all of the controls as smoothly as possible. It can just take a little practice. So test driving shoppers are advised to try the various regenerative braking modes and drive modes to find the combinations they like best. With that sorted, you're at the helm of a machine that's smooth and comfy, with plenty of acceleration and braking power at your disposal. On board, my tester's dark and focused cabin used generous metal accenting to highlight key design touches like knurled controls and the center console shifter and infotainment dials. There's enough accenting to draw attention to the signature design elements on board, but as a whole, I like how this cabin looks mostly elegant, quiet, and tastefully restrained, but with just enough glitz, glamour, and tech shining through. Feature favorites included the 3D instrument cluster with clean graphics and liquid smooth animations. It's presented in several themes with various elements visually floating over others in space. The effect doesn't show up in photos or on video, but to the naked eye it's a captivating display that adds a very modern flair to the driving environment. Okay, so a little bit more detail for you here. We'll get right up into that instrument cluster. Again, we can't see the sort of 3D effect that this is doing here on camera, but we've got different segments of this to the naked eye seem to be sort of floating over top of one another. And this actually responds to your drive mode, which is down here, so we can just press this to call up 3 different drive modes: Comfort, Sport, and Eco. We can see those up here. Just tap the button. So really nice looking instrument cluster, really nice graphics, really nicely animated, and it responds immediately to the drive mode you select. Okay, so infotainment. There's our screen. We'll get right up close there. We can see we've got sort of this neutral, calm looking screen here if we don't have anything called up. Come down here, this is how we control it, and I'm sorry the light is really, really harsh here. We've got the 3 hard buttons here, volume and tune controls. This turns the system on and off. And then we can manipulate what's going on the screen by using this gleaming, rotating track dial. You'll want to be careful because the gear shifter is right here, and that is the infotainment system dial. Now they have a different texture, they're in different locations, but that is one of the ways that I think this infotainment system is maybe a little bit harder to use than it needs to be. So we can rotate, swipe like this, push, tap in different directions like this, and push right down. Back to the home menu there, that brings us up here to our main screen. And I'm just using the Android Auto wired in this case, and that's been working really well. Let me get you some detail here on these knurled controls. You can see the way that those are sort of shimmering in the light there. When we spin them, they feel great under your fingertips. They also look fantastic, and they're all over the place. We've got one there, we've got one there, two more here. Same sort of texture around the gear shift dial, wipers, turn signal stalk, and even the power mirror switch right here. Redundant inboard mounted controls for the passenger seat allow the driver to move it easily, perhaps reclining a snoozing passenger or backing the seat up as a larger occupant gets ready to board. Pretty big fan of this climate control interface. Let me show you a little bit of a close-up here. You may not hear that with the microphone, but when I'm clicking on the screen here, I've got this little vibration, this little click. Also these hard buttons up here on the top that make it easier to find your way around in that central infotainment system here. Flip it down, no light. Open this, light comes on. Tip this forward, light goes out. Light only comes on when we're using this as a mirror, and not when we flip it up like that to block out the sun up overhead. For the money, I could have also done with a sunroof, and some EV-curious shoppers may be disappointed to learn that the electrified G80 doesn't have a frunk, since it keeps its electric system hardware under the hood, where the gas engine lives in its combustion-powered siblings. Still, with generous use of wood, leather, stitching, and metalwork to decorate, it's not hard to find beautiful materials just about anywhere you go looking inside. Assembly quality feels top-notch, and even the roughest roads coax virtually no clicking, rattling, or ticking from interior panels and plastics. So, like the drive, the interior both looks and feels carefully crafted to contribute to the electrified G80's driving character. Calm, confident, secure, very steady, and very, very relaxing. That is, once you've got the feel of its major controls sorted out. Soft closed doors. You can see that pulling itself shut. Same thing on the back here. You just gently touch that, and in it goes. By the way, the LED headlights perform very nicely after dark, transmitting plenty of light where I need it the most, engaging reflective surfaces at a great distance, and otherwise backing up the nighttime driving experience with confidence and peace of mind. As you're watching this footage, keep in mind that my cameras don't see as well as your naked eye in the dark, so in real life, what you'll see at night from behind the wheel is even more impressive. Still, for the money, point your search towards a comparable Mercedes-Benz if you're after the ultimate after-dark driving experience for the dollar. The latest Mercedes after-dark cabin lighting and headlights are consistently some of my favorites. Well, thank you for watching. My name's Justin Pritchard. Don't forget to hit that like button down below if you learned something new. And until next time, take care and drive safe.